Good morning, afternoon or evening, wherever you are in the world, and welcome to The Back Row from What I Watched Tonight. My name is still Matt Hudson, and this is Retrospectives, a show to discuss a favourite movie with somebody else who shares that same opinion. And joining me in the back row tonight is a man who's best described as, well, he's a northern hunk, but also as a premier YouTube streamer and a big film fan. It's Anthony, aka AntShotFirst. Mate, how are you?
I'm very good. Excited to chat some JP.
Mate, I can't wait. So, we're talking Jurassic Park tonight, guys. This is the film we're picking. I know it's a big favourite of Ant's, and it's a big favourite of mine. But before we get into that, Ant, what is it you do in the geek world, and where was your kind of first introduction just to film in general?
So, every Wednesday and Sunday at the minute, we do a live stream. Me and a few others, sometimes just me, we kind of get together, chat the latest news or whatever topic we've kind of come up with that week in Star Wars. So yeah, it's a fun time. Plenty of good stuff going on in the chat. Come hang out sometime.
Yep, and we'll give all the links to that at the end of the show. But if you want a bit of fun and a bit of Star Wars chat, interspersed with a bit of movie chat as well, I will say, then check out AntShotFirst streams. So, but yeah, JP, before we get into the actual fun stuff, I'll go into what I like to call the admin. So the film as a whole. Who's it directed by? It's directed by Steven Spielberg. And before Jurassic Park, he'd only given us, Indiana Jones trilogy, Jaws, E.T., Close Encounters. And the same year as Jurassic Park, he dropped Schindler's List. So there's that. It stars Sam Neill as Dr. Alan Grant, Laura Dern as Dr. Ellie Sattler, Jeff Goldblum as Dr. Ian Malcolm, Richard Attenborough as John Hammond, Bob Peck as Robert Muldoon, Joseph Mazzello as Tim, Ariana Richards as Lex, Samuel L. Jackson as Ray, and Wayne Knight as my boy Dennis Nedry. It premiered on June the 9th, 1993, and had its release on June the 11th. In terms of money, $63 million budget versus $1.032 billion worldwide gross. The movie won all 3 Oscars for which it was nominated: Best Sound, Best Sound Effects Editing, and Best VFX as well. And what's it all about? On an island off the coast of Costa Rica, John Hammond and a team of genetic scientists have created a wildlife park of de-extinct dinosaurs. When industrial sabotage leads to a catastrophic shutdown of the park's power facilities and security precautions, a small group of visitors and Hammond's grandchildren struggle to survive and escape the perilous island and the killer dinosaurs. So if you haven't seen Jurassic Park, this is going to be your spoiler warning. Ant and myself, we are going to be diving into every facet of the film that we want to, and that will include key plot points from the film. So if you haven't seen Jurassic Park, it's 2 hours and maybe 3 minutes long. Go check it out, come back and listen, join in the chat, see if you agree with us. If you do, let us know. If you don't, tell us why at the end. We'll give those links out as well. So finally, this is your spoiler warning. So with that out of the way, Ant, Jurassic Park. Why this film? Why does this film rank so highly for you, mate?
It's a special film. I think for a certain generation of people, this is kind of not something I say a lot, but I think it is a big part of it. It is sort of the 90s Star Wars. There is a certain generation of people who consumed everything Jurassic Park, everything around dinosaurs that wasn't even involved in the IP. There's a ton of reasons people have reverence for this film. I can't really remember the first time I saw it, but I when I was a kid, I kind of got the first and the second one mixed together. We had them both on VHS, and I was kind of watching them like every week, every weekend, whatever. I would chuck one of them on, sort of thing, or probably my mom and dad would throw it on. And yeah, just great memories. The scene that stuck out to me the most when I was a kid is the Robert Muldoon scene, the shoot her!
Yeah,
shoot!
Right
That
at the beginning.
So scary when I was a kid. It was like, I feel like that scene's different, like tonally, to the rest of the film as well. But yeah, it's a really, really scary scene when I was young.
Yeah, that's the first scene. Is when they come onto Isla Nublar, and they're bringing the raptor in, aren't they? They're like, securing her into place so they can open the door and she can just run off. And it's the guy called Joffrey, I think, like, great name, gets dragged in by the raptor, and you know that the raptor's absolutely like chewing his legs off at the same time as Muldoon's grabbing him, and he's just like, shoot her, shoot, and it is, and then it kind of like fades out into Grant and Sattler on their
It was
archaeological
one of
dig.
a group of films that I'd watched when I was little. I kind of got handed a box of VHS tape when I was little, and I think they were like my dad's friends, and he was moving away or something. And I don't think my dad paid too much attention as to what was in there, but there was the Star Wars trilogy in there, Jurassic Park was in there, RoboCop, Aliens, like
That's not a bad box.
A lot of films that I definitely shouldn't have been watching, but I watched a lot of. So I kind of don't have memories before watching these films. Especially, like I said, with Jurassic Park and Star Wars and whatnot, I can't remember a time where I hadn't seen them.
That's the beauty of film. I remember going to see this in the cinema, because when it first came out,
oh wow,
it was a 12. Well, there's such a thing as 12/8. It was a 12, but there was a lot of uproar about that, because it meant people like me and a lot of other kids couldn't see the film. And of course, like you said earlier on, that kids of a certain generation remember this because it impacted them some way, whether it is a newfound love of dinosaurs, the merchandise, and whatever.
Yeah,
and
it's one of those strange
dinosaurs.
Situations where like the marketing was all for kids. Like there was so much toys and so many. I think Aliens had like a similar thing, didn't it, in the 80s, where there was so many Kenner toys advertised to kids, but the film was above the age range they could watch it. So
I wouldn't be showing my daughter Aliens, but because I wouldn't be able to watch the film, but there was uproar and they dropped it down to PG. So I'm assuming I can't remember though if they actually took any scenes out, or if the BBFC did just drop it down to a PG. But I remember going to see it in the cinema I think it's back home in Woking, and the bit where the lawyer gets chomped on the crapper, I remember my uncle just put his hands over my eyes, and I was even now I'm still riled up at that, because I was like I wanted to see it. Yeah. I still remember that. And then my same uncle also managed to procure like a really dodgy camera version on VHS, but somebody sitting in the back row filming it, so I got to see it in like this dodgy, blurry VHS. But man, I remember this is one of the first films I saw at the cinema, and I loved dinosaurs as a kid. I always wanted to be a paleontologist. I always want to run around digging up dinosaur bones. So this film was right up my alley. So that's why I feel like you say, for that generation of kids, of which we are, it does hold that place, doesn't it?
Yeah. It was a really, really big generational movie, like I said, for a lot of all-consuming stuff with the merchandise, the books. I remember looking through the fact files, trying to learn every single dinosaur name. I can't remember any of them now when I watch it, but I was really, really into it, really trying to consume everything Jurassic Park. And it came out the year I was born, so I didn't watch it for a long time after. But I can't remember much else from before I saw it. Like I said, it's just a really good time.
Something you grew up with. Well, you mentioned the shot of Muldoon saying "shooter." So the episode, as we do on Retrospective, it's all about what did we enjoy about the film, the scenes, the moments, the performances, whatever it might be. We spend the next God knows how long we want talking about what was so great about it. And maybe at the end, little things just maybe irked us ever so slightly. So, Ant, the floor is yours to start us off. What are some of like the favourite moments from Jurassic Park that just stick with you?
I'm kind of taking the cake earlier, but one of my favourite scenes definitely is the T-Rex first coming through the fence, and the kids in the Jeep getting tipped over.
The vibration in the water cup.
Oh, it's brilliant. It's brilliant.
What an entrance to have. Like you say, the water, and then the footsteps, and you think, oh, I know what's coming. Because before that, because they're on the tour, aren't they? And before that, they go past the Dilophosaurs and the T-Rex, and there's nothing there. And what I found scary about that was, there's something in there, but where? It's really ominous. And then it all led to that scene with the T-Rex. Yeah.
Another great scene, it's obviously the opening scene, the Welcome to Jurassic Park, the opening of them entering the park, obviously. And there's been a lot of people cover that over time. The way that is shot to create scale, I still don't think has been beaten in any terms of like a lot of dinosaur movies aren't very good, obviously, but like even the modern Jurassic Park movies can't seem to nail the scale that Spielberg did in that opening scene. He's brilliant for that.
Is that when they're approaching the island, or is that when they're going through the big gates?
No, when the first dinosaur comes on screen. Sorry,
dude, yeah, mate.
I was waxing lyrical about it. I didn't even mention the dinosaur. Yeah, so shooting the dinosaur from such a low angle and having it interact with the trees and stuff, and you're not even knowing which parts are sort of CG and which parts are practical effects at points in the film. It's, really good compliment to the effects.
No, mate.
I didn't know as well. There there are 6 minutes in Jurassic Park of CGI effects.
6?
6 minutes of CGI.
And there's, 2 hours and 3 minutes long of a film? And that's best part of 2 hours of just pure practical or live effect on camera. That's mental.
I couldn't believe that. I couldn't believe it.
Because I know a lot of the animals were dinosaurs are animatronics, or in some cases people in suits, like the raptors, especially with their feet. 6 minutes, mate.
6 minutes in total. Fact check me for this, guys listening and whatnot, but I'm pretty sure that is the number. 6 minutes of CGI and 9 minutes of dinosaur like practical effects on that, and everything else obviously is live action.
That's amazing. But I know now. Yeah, I remember the scene now. A lot of the scale though comes from, and I'm sure we're going to mention this at some point, but it comes from the score. And when the chopper gets to the island, the music just starts to beef up a little bit, and you start to hear what we now know as, the quintessential theme. And then when Alan Grant sees the brachiosaur in disbelief, and he sort of grabs Ellie's head and turns it, and then the theme just kicks in when they have that wide shot.
Goes along with your feelings at the time, just such a massive bit of scale and a huge moment. Obviously, you're seeing dinosaurs obviously return like in the modern day, and the score kind of really does drive that home, that this thing that you've seen is so epic and really, really good.
Yeah, and that's it. And the score does an awful lot. It's John Williams, isn't it? So he does an awful lot for it. Most things he does. But I watched this a couple of days ago now to rewatch it just to prepare for this, and that scene gets me every time. I think I love Sam Neill in this, and I think it was a great fit for this, because I know that originally they offered Harrison Ford the role of Grant, and he turned it down. William Hurt turned it down. I don't
think those guys would have worked. Yeah,
no, I don't think those guys Harrison would have Ford says he's seen parts of the film, and he's come out and said, it was the right choice not to cast me. Jim Carrey auditioned for Ian Malcolm. Christina Ricci auditioned for Lex. Robin Wright turned down Ellie Sattler, although Dern was Spielberg's first choice. So there was some, like every film, Star Wars and other films, you've got those kind of like what if castings. What if Kurt Russell was Han Solo? What if Harrison Ford was Dr. Grant? How would it have been? But I watched The Omen 3 very close proximity to this. So in The Omen 3, Sam Neill is Damien, but the Antichrist comes to take over the world. And I'm watching this, I was like, this is a weird double-header to see now. Actually, Alan Grant is now bonding with these kids, and actually he's not so bad after all. But yeah, mate, that scene is what, as a kid, that's it for me. You always dream of seeing dinosaurs, and then in 1993, as a young lad, seeing that, it's like they're on screen. Then the music just gets you, and it sticks with you. And
that score's still as powerful today as it's overplayed, and still nobody's fed up with it.
No,
everybody. I can listen
to that all day, mate. And even, this is proper nerdy, but when I was listening to it yesterday, John Williams himself has gone back to that Jurassic Park pool, because there's two themes in this which sound exactly like ones in the sequel trilogy. When they're approaching the visitor centre, it sounds an awful lot like March of the Resistance. And there's another one later on in the film. There's one later on in the film, I can't remember, but it's Han on the bridge with Kylo. That kind of a theme is playing. I was like, John. But John Williams can do what he wants. But I mean, the scene before that I like is the little boy when Dr. Grant and Ellie Sattler they found some bones and the guy on the computer was looking at it, and then that little lad just says, that doesn't look very scary, more like a 6-foot turkey. And Alan Grant takes his glasses off, and he's about to F shit up here. He's had it. He's like, come on, and he's like, and he just goes around and he gets his raptor claw, and he's like, and he ends with, "You're alive when they start to eat you," and the kid's face. I mean, we get then that Grant isn't a big advocate for kids, but there's a fan theory that little boy is a young Owen Grady from the new Jurassic World films. I don't buy it, but it's a fun.
No, I don't buy that.
I mean, if it was, then so be it. But I like that just because it's a light-hearted scene, even though he's saying how they're going to destroy this kid. But it sets up Grant and his dislike or ambivalence towards kids, which obviously later pays off in the film.
Yeah. And I think that, like you said, that is a light-hearted moment. But throughout the whole film, I think one of the things that does immerse you really well in the film's world, sort of thing, is that the characters don't ever for 1 second not take the situation seriously. They are obsessed with their jobs. They're obsessed with dinosaurs. You can tell Ellie Sattler's obsessed with what she's doing. When she sees a dinosaur, she's kind of awestruck.
Mhm.
Like she's really good in this. I think that's like quite underrated performance as well. Just how good she is in this, and I think it kind of shows in the sequels that the dinosaurs kind of, as much as they are really stunning and exciting to look at, especially when you're a kid, it is more about these characters. And they're going back to these characters in the next one, aren't they? I believe.
Yeah, they're bringing. I know Sam Neill's definitely come back. I think Jeff Goldblum. But I think they're all coming back as far as I'm aware. I mean, how big their roles will be, I don't know. But
yeah, because they are great characters. It's a thing that's not spoke about too often because obviously there's giant dinosaurs running around in the film. So, but yeah, I think it's a really good set of characters. It is the thing that kind of keeps me going back to this one as opposed to some of the other ones.
That's a really good point as well about the characters and their situation, because they're brought, the three scientists, Dr. Malcolm Grant, Ian Malcolm, sorry, Malcolm Grant, who's that? Ian Malcolm, Dr. Grant.
With all the names.
Ellie Malcolm Grant, that guy. So they're all brought there to sign off on the island because obviously Joffrey was chomped by the raptor at the beginning. Shoot her! So they're brought in to sign off on the island to get it off. But throughout the whole thing, they're not just they're awestruck. But Ian Malcolm's the first one to kind of say, like, this isn't right. Life will not compete.
This isn't right.
Life won't be contained. It will break free. Life finds a way and all that. And then when the lawyer's like, we'll have a coupon day for the riffraff to come in, Ian Malcolm's extremely against the idea. We were so preoccupied with whether they could, they never stopped to think if they should. Such a great line.
Brilliant line.
Yeah, and then the others follow.
They're still sort of referring back to that line now with the sequels as well, aren't they?
Yeah, and life finds a way. Said that in Fallen Kingdom in his 30-second cameo, that life finds a way. But and the other characters soon follow suit as well. They're asking questions, but by kind of halfway through the film, they're like, right. Obviously, by the time they start getting hunted by dinosaurs, they're coming out saying this is a bad idea. And it's John Hammond is the one the whole time. Even at the end when he's eating his ice cream, he's like, now we've ironed out the kinks. Now we know next time we need extra security. We need this, that, and the other, and he's still clinging on to it.
Yeah, he's a madman.
Yeah,
he's a madman with too much money.
And he kept saying, we spared no expense, which made me laugh. I never noticed how many times he says that in this film.
Yeah.
Any other again, other than just saying the whole film, what else are you thinking, mate? So best moments.
It's a strange one to choose, but I really like the dino DNA scene, the small little bit of exposition which kind of skips over a lot of. I don't know if you've read the book, but a lot of the book is just exposition. It's explaining in detail every single sequence, every single way they brought back the dinosaurs, what about the dinosaurs and stuff. And I kind of think that obviously wouldn't have played well on screen. So it was a really good way to sort of bring that information into the film without sort of bogging it down. Mm-hmm. It was just with the quick cartoon scene at the start, the little animated scene, just to blow away all the exposition early on. Yeah,
that's a good shout. I haven't read the book. My governor and my brother have read it, I believe, but I haven't read it. I don't know why. I've always wanted to read it, but then people have said, if you like the film, that's good enough. You just watch the film. It's fine. It's very different. Yeah, it is very different. Doesn't John Hammond get eaten in the book? Yeah. It's very different then. Yeah. It's a lot more dark than the movie was, and it's got a lot more of a. I don't know. I know the message is kind of dark in the film, but they don't really play on it too much. It's a much more cynical message as well. Well, they were going to get James Cameron wanted to auction for the script, but even he came back and said my version would have been more vicious. It would have been darker. I guess more like. I think the quote was, my version would have been much darker, but nowhere near as good. Well, yeah, because James Cameron, he holds claim to some of the biggest films of all time, but he himself was a bit of a tit sometimes, so I'm much happy having Spielberg doing it. Especially in recent years, yeah. Yeah, he likes to taste of his own trotter in the last few years, taste of his own foot. Yeah, I like that scene as well. Plus, it's fun for the kids as well. It's a fun little animated scene. It's only 3 minutes, and you've got John Hammond, Richard Attenborough, playing off against himself on screen. So it's light-hearted. So it's exposition, but it is done in a way, like you say, where it does not bogging the film down. It's condensing 300 pages into 2 minutes, and the kids are going to watch it and be like, I understand now. Mosquito bites dinosaur. mosquito gets encased in nectar, amber nectar, gets found.
Yeah.
We extract, stuff from it for the kids or DNA, and we replace it with frog strands and all that. So it's very easy even for a Luddite like me to follow. It's very easy. And as a kid, I remember following it. And I was like, okay, that I understand that. Whether it made any sense to like my 7-year-old head, but I understood it.
And I think that is like we said, that is what that scene's for. Is so that the kids understand sort of how this has happened and that it is modern day. Yeah.
And you get like little moments that are going to play back later on when the scientists are saying, "Oh, we're breeding these all as female. There's no males; they're all female. They can't breed, so nothing's going to go wrong." And it's that kind of like God complex which is what Malcolm's saying. Life will break free; it finds a way. You're doing this. You're taking away you're altering their genetic code. But what life does, the chaos theory in which Ian Malcolm subscribes to, means that it ain't going to last forever. And as we find out, it doesn't, because they do end up breeding. So there's little things in the film which you do think, oh, that's fun. You're like, yeah, they haven't been lifting up the skirts to find out if they're female. But they do pay off later in the film. Little moments. This is a film which, when I rewatched it, there were so many good scenes. And again, you mentioned Muldoon. I think he was great in this, Bob Peck. And his first kind of moment after the intro is when they feed a cow to the raptors.
Feed the cow, yeah.
And Muldoon, he's like proper serious and ominous because everyone's having a bit of fun before. It was a bit light-hearted. But then Muldoon comes in, he's proper serious, explaining how the raptors, they test things, they remember, and how they hunt in packs. You stare at one, and the two come from the side, which again pays off later in the film. But I love that scene because that was like a milestone for the film for me, where you've had the big moments and the fun moments, and now you've got, and obviously the intro is pretty brutal, but then you've got this Muldoon's kind of saying, right, this is serious stuff, and the film itself stops for that moment as well, which is what I like before it goes back into going on to the tour and everyone waiting to see the dinos. It's Muldoon's basically saying these are still very intelligent creatures, and they will tear you to pieces if they get a chance to.
That kind of pays off as well. What you're saying about the raptors. If you were to ask anybody what is the best scene in the film, a lot of people's answer would be the kitchen scene and the scene leading up to the kitchen scene. The jelly. I remember that. I remember really vividly that she was making a really loud noise, putting the spoon in her mouth. Yeah, like biting down on the spoon. Like, yeah, it was that really grated on me when I was a kid. It was still now, yeah.
This is really bad. I haven't put this in my quote unquote like bad moments of the film, but when Timmy and Lex are eating the food at the end and they're all happy, I really get annoyed at the way they're smiling at each other and like chomping. It really winds me up.
Yeah.
It's like, just have your cake and eat it. You're going to get chomped in a minute. But there's something about it, like child happiness. It's like, I can't have this, even though I have a wonderful daughter myself. I was like, something about that scene just irks me.
Well, that scene is so well done. The kitchen scene, how tense it is when they're hiding, and just the way the sound design sort of thing as they're coming past. You can, when the camera's just focused on the kids, you can kind of figure out where the raptors are based on the pans, and the amount of times they move, and it's inches away from the raptor seeing them. Like the foot just comes around the corner just as the raptor's about to come around. Is really good. That kind of sets up the whole finale.
That is pretty much it. It's from when they go to turn the power on. That's it. And that moment, it's got that brilliant cross shot of when it's Alan Grant's like, the kids will be fine as long as the raptors don't work out how to open doors. And then it quickly cuts to the door handle, like being opened, being manoeuvred to be open. I was like, no way. And that whole thing, like when Lexi got the green jelly, and the green jelly sticking to my mind, because I was like, that looks really nice. But she's shaking her, and I read today that apparently they had to get a member of the crew to actually shake her elbow off screen to give that.
It kind of would have been an unnatural movement if she was doing it herself. Yeah.
And I was like, okay, because when I watched it, I do always look to think that jelly is shaking an awful lot, but now it makes sense. And of course, she's looking at the raptor silhouette, and I mean, I don't know what I'd do if I'm sitting eating my jelly and a silhouette of a raptor is 10 feet or 20 feet away. I can't imagine what I would do, or the muscles that would clench in me if I saw that.
So I don't want to think about the muscles that would clench.
No, absolutely not. Yeah, and then they get to the kitchen, and that scene, everybody says, like, almost to a man who I speak to, that scene is like the horror moment of this film, where it's just like Michael Myers stalking you through the kitchen. Instead, it's an extremely intelligent animal, which you again, like Mike Myers, you can't reason with. If it finds you, it will eat you. It doesn't care what you are, who you are, how old you are.
I think, like you said, that moment being a horror moment as well, that's something Jurassic Park balances really well, is it's kind of an adventure film until it's a horror film when, depending on which dinosaur kind of shows up.
That's a good shout,
it's an awe-inspiring, amazing visual experience sort of thing. You're looking at these dinosaurs, and then you know kind of in the back of your head that there is a T-Rex on the island somewhere. You're going to see it, and things are going to get real bad as soon as he shows up. The raptors do. Yeah. What are you saying about the jelly as well, how they use the effect?
Yeah.
What did they do with the water? I remember reading something about that. There was a really over-the-top effect to make the water shake.
Well, they couldn't get it to like ripple outwards, so I read that, if I remember rightly, by plucking a guitar string, it gave the right vibration. So underneath the cup, I'm trying to picture the scene. Underneath is a like elaborate contraption with a guitar string, which off screen someone is plucking.
That was it. Yeah,
and that's it. And the vibrations allow them to do that. I mean, it's amazing because to me, you'd think, just stamp the floor and it'll work, but obviously it's not that simple.
But they could have done that, or they could have just shook the car and they could have done this stuff. But I think it is the attention to detail with that kind of stuff that there's a reason that we're talking about a film where they bring dinosaurs back in modern day. Two scenes that stand out are jelly and water shaking to imply that those dinosaurs are approaching. There's a reason that they put this much effort into this stuff in the film.
That's Steven Spielberg, isn't it? It's not a dinosaur. It's all about that green jello. But that's just the intro to that scene you mentioned first. What an entrance for Rexy, because that's who everyone's come to see. Let's not lie about it, because Steven Spielberg even said, Rexy is the hero of the film in whatever way you want to see it. And
when dinosaurs ruled the earth.
Yeah, and it's him and it's Rexy roaring. It's to vibrations, the footsteps. It's almost like what's coming. And then Lexi says, where's the goat? The goat leg lands on top of the car, and then T-Rex he just appears, and the way he just looks over at the kids as if to say, "Hey, I'm going to eat you." He really nonchalantly stares at them, and he's stalking the cars. Of course, they got the flashlight on. Alan and Ian Malcolm are, turn it off, and that huge roar before attacking the kids. It's like, what an entrance!
Yeah, brilliant. That whole scene is it is like you said, it is the big payoff scene, isn't it? That seeing the banner, the when dinosaurs ruled the earth banner drop across the T-Rex is, that's a fantastic thing. And it does. I think you feel. I don't know about you, but I feel like there is more dinosaur action in the film than there actually is, because that 10-20 minutes of action that you get there is so good. It is such a good payoff that you've been waiting for. It feels like that kind of is in more of the film, but it is a short part, isn't it? That the dinosaurs do show up in a big way.
It is. It's really like the final third of the film, or the finale, the final act. Once from turning the power back on, then you kind of get more. And then even then, it's really just the raptors, and you get the Dilophosaur that attacks Nedry. But the dinosaurs aren't in it for that long. But it's like the Jaws effect that Spielberg himself, created. Yeah. You can show the dinos.
I think he stumbled upon the Jaws effect with obviously the mechanics of the of the Jaws shark not really working.
Yeah.
But I think he sort of learned from that is the way he should have gone. And maybe we could be living in a world where if the Jaws shark had worked and that film had still been successful, Jurassic Park would have been a lot more action focused and there would have been a lot more dinosaur in it and not as much build up and payoff as we got. Yeah,
like some of the sequels, which I guess again we'll mention those in a bit as well. But that's a good point. Yeah, but they could have shown a lot more of the dinos, but the fact that they didn't, and that's what I loved about that one of those opening scenes when they're on the tour and everyone, and we are the audience, like everyone in those cars, the kids and the doctors. We're looking out the windows to see this Dilophosaur, to see the T-Rex, and to see everything, but we don't see them. But in the back of our minds, you know that they're there. But like I say, like where it's the anticipation, it's the suspense they're building. And then we see like the Triceratops that's ill. And what you said there was a very valid point. Is we see the dinosaurs, and there's that kind of juxtaposition of how we're meant to feel when you see them. Because you see the Brachiosaur at the beginning with the music, and you're like, wow. And then later on, when they're in the tree and they're feeding Brontosaurus.
They're feeding him, yeah.
Wonderful. And then with the Triceratops, okay, we feel for the dino. But then they show the T-Rex trying to get him. Then we show the raptors. Then we show the Dilophosaur. And it's a completely different feeling from these other dinosaurs.
Yeah, because you kind of get the scene with the Dilophosaur, is it the one when they point out the giant pile of shit next to
it? That is just a Triceratops, isn't it?
The Triceratops, yeah, and it's
that is one big pile of shit.
Ellie that's the scene where Ellie is so enamored with seeing this dinosaur sort of thing, and you can tell she's sort of really, she's kind of more into the side that they kind of should be preserved and they should be there, but obviously they start to see the downside when the more vicious dinosaurs come out later on.
Yeah, when the ones who want to eat you, they're the ones that kind of ruin it.
They have all these really nice moments earlier on with like I say, the Brontosaurus and the Brachiosaur and everything else, and it just kind of goes downhill from there, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I love how they do that. It's a good point as well. Like you see the raptor at the beginning chomping on Joffrey, and then the only dinos you see then are nice, they're friendly, or ill. And then Muldoon's talking about the raptors that they will destroy you, which we've seen them do. And later we get Rexy and the rest of them. With the Triceratops, you get the shot of Alan Grant laying on its stomach, hearing it breathing, and even he's just like, "This is incredible." And obviously you get Ian Malcolm swaggering up to it. That is one big part of shit.
We haven't really mentioned him much either, but that is a fantastic performance. That is a brilliant role, a brilliant character as well.
And it could have gone wrong. I'm not saying, because Jim Carrey's a fantastic dramatic actor when he wants to be, but if Jim Carrey's in that role, it isn't the same. It hasn't got the same intonation of voice, whereas Jeff Goldblum has that kind of almost like natural, sardonic, sarcastic voice to him, but he's also genuine at the same time. And that,
like we said earlier, the film takes itself seriously. It isn't a spoof. It isn't a parody of dinosaurs coming back. It is, if dinosaurs came back, this is what would be happening. And like you said, I don't think Jim Carrey maybe would have put that across on screen as well as Jeff Goldblum.
And Goldblum, even if he'd gone full Goldblum, he wouldn't have worked. But the performance was great, and all three of them together, Sam Neill, Laura Dern, and Jeff Goldblum, celebrated actors. And obviously Laura Dern's got an Oscar on her mantelpiece now. The three of them work so well together. And this is Richard Attenborough's first role for 15 years.
Yeah, they were relatively unknown at the time as well, weren't they?
For the most part. Sam Neill had been in... they'd all been in a lot of films. Laura Dern, I think, was probably... I'd argue was the highest... But then Jeff Goldblum had been in The Fly and stuff like that, so people knew him from that. But in terms of mainstream films...
For Spielberg's sort of run that he was on, for this to be one of the biggest ones... They could have picked much bigger actors for that.
Yeah, like the ones we mentioned before that they were mooted for the role, and for Ellie Sattler there was a huge list of stars for that. But sometimes you have to eschew the name for the performance, and that's no disrespect to any of the three characters in this film, actors in this film, because they got the roles and they nailed it. They are synonymous with these roles, and it's because of them that this film works. The dinosaurs are wonderful, of course. The graphics are great for the most part. But if the three leads don't work well together individually, or you don't believe them, the film falls apart very quickly. Like you said,
definitely, yeah. And the thing with those leads as well is you're on board with their characters before they even see a dinosaur.
Yeah.
So when they start to experience this stuff, you're kind of already in with them, and there's such a good atmosphere and good relationship between them. You kind of feel like you're going along the journey with them. As soon as you're in the helicopter scene and they're all kind of bantering away there, that is the first time you're kind of like, yeah, we're going on this adventure. You're sort of with them, aren't you?
Yeah, and Jeff Goldblum and Laura Dern got along very well on set, because they ended up going out and getting engaged for a couple of years after this film. So Jeff Goldblum, laid down his marker.
There's not many of us that wouldn't go and get engaged to him after that, is there really?
No, especially in the scene where he's got his shirt unbuttoned, that famous scene, laying back all sweaty after being attacked by the Rex.
Maybe the most used GIF of all time, possibly.
I'd say it's one of the... my meme history isn't huge, but I've got to say it's up there with... Surely it's one of the earlier memes or most used. Yeah. And they erected that massive one to celebrate the 25th anniversary in London. This huge model of Jeff Goldblum in that pose. I never got to, and that was only annoying. It's like it was 30 minutes from me. a 10-minute walk and a 20-minute train ride, and I could have been there touching Ian Malcolm's chest, but I couldn't get around to it at the time. But this film has got so many iconic scenes and moments which don't, like you said, don't always have the dinosaurs in them. And I love the point you say, when you're on the helicopter and everyone's having a bit of bants, the old Bantosaurus Rex, it feels light-hearted. it feels good, and you haven't seen Ian Malcolm at work, but you've seen Sattler and Grant in their natural habitat and how excited they are.
You've seen them at work.
Yeah, and how excited they are when Hammond's there, and that eventually gets to the point that he wants to hire them fund them for 3 years if they come and check out this island. You feel like, oh, this is great, and then when they see the dinos, it's really good. And when the moment they start doubting, I guess for us, it's also the moment we start doubting. Like we mentioned, when Malcolm starts questioning, like, should this be happening? Is this ethical? Is this, we're playing God here? Is this right? That's when you start thinking, actually, I mean, these were extinct 65 million years ago, and as you said, these guys had their chance, and they were done away with. Now you're bringing them together again. It raises those kind of ethical questions. But whereas I was a kid, though, I was just kind of like, it's damn right, it's the right thing to do because I want to see the dinosaurs. But now it's different. Yeah,
it does have that side as well, doesn't it? And it doesn't really it doesn't harp on that too much, but it is there, isn't it? The whole theme of, should we really be doing this ethically? And
it's necessary, though.
And how much is this going to affect? Yeah,
it's necessary, and I think that's what elevates it as well as a film. It isn't just scientists go to island, they're very excited, it all goes bad, dinosaurs try to eat them, they escape, end of. In between all that is those kind of moralistic, ethical side of it, which I think is probably what Crichton was. I haven't read the book, but I don't know if that's what Crichton was going for in his book. But the kind of we've got these advances in like science and technology, but should we be pursuing them in these ways? Is there a possibility that they could be used for something like this, which is inanely wrong? So I don't know.
And it turns out definitely not.
Yeah.
Definitely don't.
Yeah, if it means that I'm going to get chomped on the toilet, no, I don't want it. But yeah, I mean that's also part of that scene as well. Like the blood sucking lawyer is the first one to make a runner for it, gets chomped on the toilet, whereas Grant at that moment, Grant's like the kids are in there, and that's when he starts to warm to the kids. I don't really think he wants to see them getting eaten. So that's when he gets to flare out, and then Ian Malcolm becomes the hero, and he's over here, go and save the kids. I love that. I like that scene. I like how those two, because before there's a little bit of friction between those two because Ian Malcolm's hitting on Ellie, which we then find out is a thing with Dr. Grant. But then in that moment, they kind of come together to work together to save the kids, and then everyone gets separated, which usually happens in the second part of a trilogy. But in this film, they all get separated for some reason and have to come together, and I like that as well.
Yeah. This is the reason that it does hold up after all these years. Definitely, like we said, is these characters and the way they play off each other. And I think that they're not classic stereotype characters either. Mm-hmm. You don't just have sort of the staple. Yeah, there's not the action hero. None of them are really the action hero, are they? They all kind of have to come together with what they know and what their specific character knows to get out of situations. Yeah. Like you said, it's a nice little turn that they do with Ian Malcolm where he does have his like hero moment. Mm-hmm. Whatnot.
No, yeah. Before we go into any more scenes, as in like actual moments, what's for you? Because you mentioned when dinosaurs ruled the earth. What's like the most? What do you think is the most iconic shot? And I hate that word, but because it's misused now by too many people. Iconic, but what do you think is the most iconic shot of Jurassic Park, other than when dinosaurs ruled the earth?
So apart from that one, I think it's got to be the scene at the start. The first time they see a dinosaur at the start. And like we spoke about this earlier, but it's the way that these scenes are shot which gives the dinosaurs so much scale. And they kind of don't use that same method in the newer film, which you do lose the sense of scale and the sense of like it's so amazing seeing the Welcome to Jurassic Park scene. It still gets you every time you watch it. You see the first dinosaur come in, and the camera kind of pans with the character's vision as well. I think it was really, really well shot and effective scene.
Yeah, I'm asking the question. And I think that's a solid, bloody good answer. Now I'm trying to think what I would have. There was when I was watching, there was so many. I mean, obviously, like the vibrating cup, of course. It's a great scene where Lex and Grant are trying to save Timmy, but then they're backed up against the car, and you just see the T-Rex's foot come down in front of them. I love that scene.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
I'm trying to think of any other ones. Yeah, when they first see the island, Christ, and when they approach Jurassic Park and they see the gates. There's so many, and all just the first time you see Rexy in general. There's so many like amazing shots, and this is before we even speak about the end itself. There's so many wonderful shots, and a lot of them are complemented again by John Williams, the maestro. He has a knack. He has a way of telling a story in his themes, and I know that's not anything new to hear because everyone knows that.
Definitely.
Whether it's any of the Spielberg films, Harry Potter, Star Wars, Home Alone, for Christ's sake, whatever it might be, John Williams finds a way.
You can turn the dialogue off in a lot of scenes and still understand fully what's going on just by John Williams' score.
Spot on. If you turn the dialogue off in that scene you just mentioned when they first encounter the dinosaurs and you just have the score, bloody hell.
Yeah, it works. It works well. I would say it works just as well, if not for the legendary "Welcome to Jurassic Park" line.
Yeah,
I mean that's probably, would you say, the most iconic line from the film? In what I've just said is probably the most iconic scene in the film.
I think so, mate. I think it is. There's lots of great lines of dialogue which you've mentioned, but that, I mean, it encapsulates just the film itself. Welcome to Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's fun lines like even before that. You crazy son of a bitch, you did it. And that's one big part of and everything. And there's other.
And to mention another scene where we're talking about shaking and vibrations is the great scene where Alan Grant's taking his glasses off, which is just amazing.
Again,
so well done.
You could really. I'm not an actor, but I'm sure you could really kind of nose that up somehow by just not getting the right amount of shake or the right amount of squint.
You could undersell that.
Yeah. To be able to sell that.
You could undersell the scene as much as you could oversell it as well. There's a lot of like parodies of it, like really being overacted and stuff, and he really does nail it.
Yeah, I agree.
And Spielberg does that a lot, doesn't he? He lingers on a character's face for a long time before revealing to you what they're seeing, which kind of builds up an anticipation for you to sort of get ready for something brilliant to be happening.
And for the most part, what they're seeing is something worth seeing as well. So when we finally see it, it's like, wow.
Definitely.
And I don't know what they saw on set. I don't know what their point of reference was to make Sam Neill pull that off, or if he's just
I think it was Ian Malcolm.
Yeah, it's just Ian Malcolm with his shirt off.
I think Ian Malcolm busts the shirt open, and that's just Sam Neill's reaction that they somehow caught on film.
Yeah, they weren't even filming at the time. It was just like candid. It's for behind the scenes documentary. Next to him was Richard Attenborough doing the same thing. Welcome to Jurassic Park, as he says. Yeah, I'm buttoning his shirt. Yeah, I think that is the most iconic. There's so many other great lines in this. It's a very quotable film, but that is the big scene. There's like anything like Dennis Nedry. That moment is like every time something.
We haven't mentioned much Dennis Nedry. That's a brilliant.
Yeah, Dennis Nedry, Wayne Knight. That was my first introduction to Wayne Knight, and to me, even now, when he pops up, it's like, Dennis Nedry. But he's, they make, as soon as he's on the set, as soon as he comes on screen, we know he's working against Hammond here, and because he gets the aftershave can, doesn't he? From, I can't remember the guy's name now. This is really bad because he even says we've got Dodgson. That's it. Dodgson over here. Dodgson.
I remember that because of the Lego game. Then that was really bad. But yeah,
people have T-shirts with that on as well. And funny enough, the character who plays Dodgson has said, "I'd love to reprise the role." I'm thinking, I bet you bloody would. I'm not sure there's a I'm not sure
too much else
story for Dodgson anywhere in these films, but yeah. So we find him, and we know he's going to steal the embryos and make a lot of money off it, which subsequent films kind of play on that as well. And throughout he is tampering with everything possible he can, and then when he goes to get the embryos, the Dilophosaur makes short work of him. But in terms of the character, we're saying that, I mean, that's a necessary character as well, because I think we need someone like Nedry in the film, because in a situation where this unprecedented kind of park is open and the amount of money involved, there are going to be people circling trying to get a piece of it, and the idea of someone like Dennis Nedry being there trying to get his cut doesn't surprise me whatsoever. And I did.
And Dennis Nedry is obviously like, he's the least kind of he's the least applicable to the situation where he has no experience with any of this stuff, really, does
Yeah.
he? He's the most out of his depth, like being chased by a dinosaur.
He's just a techie
than any of the other guys. Yeah.
All due respect, he's just there to keep the systems online and that's it.
Another scene that just before I forget, another really subtle little scene is the objects in mirror.
Oh yeah,
Far closer than they appear scene. That is brilliant. It's another small, tiny detail like we keep talking about, but adds so much. And just knowing, obviously, the T-Rex is very close to eating everybody.
That's when Ian Malcolm's in the car, isn't he? That's it, must go. And he uses that again in Independence Day a couple of years later. Must go faster, go faster. Because he's in the car and he's like, come on, go. It's Muldoon and Sattler come bursting out just in time as the T-Rex comes after them. And I love that. Is the idea of like being on that Jeep, and having that chase you. And objects in mirror may be closer than they appear as the T-Rex zooms in.
Even just the Jeep. What an iconic look. Just brilliant look.
Didn't Spielberg? I'm sure already turned up to the premiere in one of those.
Oh yeah,
which is
it sounds like a Spielberg
a boss. But yeah, exactly. Just like
I want that Jeep. If I can get that someday, then I can die happy.
If I win the lottery, I would love a Jurassic Park Jeep. And even then, actually, on the Jeeps, they're even playing with stuff that obviously nowadays is very applicable, where there's no emissions, there's no, it's all done on an electric car or via solar power, or whatever. Yeah. And like now, that's like, oh, cool. That would go down very well now. But yeah, those Jeeps are the nuts. But even then, that's a foreshadowing. That's telegraphing that something's going to happen because he's like, no drivers. Like, no drivers. It's all done. You're in this car and you're kind of at the mercy of this track.
If we're going to bring back dinosaurs to eat everybody, we're at least going to do our bit for the environment.
Yeah, we're not going to have drivers. So if something does go wrong, you're stuck there. So yeah. And if dinosaurs get out, well, you're just going to have to make a run for it. So they kind of telegraph it, but that doesn't bother me whatsoever. But back Dennis Nedry, when he gets the aftershave can, which I always wanted one of those cans as a kid. I don't know why, they would look really cool. And the way that he puts the aftershave onto the pie, I was like, oh, that looks like really nice, like cream. But at one point he kind of squeals, and I love it when he squeals. He's laughing at the same time. But when the guy says, even if these cans get tested, you push the button and the cream stuff comes out, he squeals in excitement, and it makes me happy every time.
Is that kind of the squeal that you do when you do make yourself a little pie and
you put a bit of cream in it?
Get yourself some squirty cream.
That's it. Yeah. It's exactly it. When you do that, or when you're being chased by a T-Rex and needs to go on the toilet instead of you, it's like I can't do, my voice won't go that high. But I like Nedry, and and he was always going to die in this film, and I like the way he went out. So like trying to play fetch with this killer extinct species who ends up spitting
terrifying dinosaur as well.
Face, yeah.
The one what's the name of the dinosaur? Dilophosaur, that's it. Yeah.
Spits that black shit in his face.
That was the one who terrified me the most. Yeah.
Imagine that coming in your room.
That'd be the worst death, I think. Getting that guy spitting in your face.
Yeah, because it was venomous. So not only are you going to go blind, he's then going to eat you.
Yeah.
And I can't remember if the Lost World and Jurassic Park 3, played into this, but they show the aftershave can with the embryo falling down a waterfall and getting covered in mud, but he lingers on that can as if to say, like, if we revisit these films, that's going to be a plot point. I can't remember if they go back to that in any of the other films.
No, I don't think they do. No.
It's just there.
I'm pretty sure they don't.
No.
Yeah, no, I don't think they do.
Well, about the other films, just quickly, in terms of the actual Jurassic Park films, like 2 and 3 before the newer ones, what do you reckon about those? Because Spielberg came back for The Lost World, and it's Joe Johnston, I think, did Jurassic Park 3. But what do you think about those?
I think the second one doesn't get enough credit. And I think when you ask people about the second one, and they just say, oh, but there's a scene where the girl's doing the gymnast kicks on the Velociraptors, that's usually the only thing they say to say why it's no good.
Yeah.
And I rewatched that in doing this as well, the second one, and there are so many great scenes in that. The scene where the trailer that they're in is tipping over the edge, and what's the character's name? The lady's on the glass.
I am lost for. I can't remember the characters. I remember the scene because it just didn't start cracking, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it's just so tense. It's brilliant. Really good scene, and I remember watching it back, and I used to watch that one all the time when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't rewatched it that much as an adult. quote unquote adult, and it really doesn't stick out to me as that there's that many. But what are your moments that you kind of, or do you like the film? Like, what are your moments that you don't like?
To be honest, mate, I haven't seen those films in yonks. I remember the third one being, a bit more, I don't want to say violent or darker, but I remember the third one being a bit less jovial and a bit more kind of action-y kind of horror, if I remember right.
Yeah.
William H. Macy.
I'm not too much of a fan of the third one, but I think the third one and the second one kind of get lumped in together.
I agree, yeah. Even though they're slightly different films, but
yeah, you get Jeff Goldblum in the second one, obviously, and the third one's Alan Grant, and there's some good scenes in the third one, but yeah, the second one I don't think gets enough credit. I can't remember who did a video on this a bit back, and it was a justification for my thoughts on this.
Yeah.
It was Chris Stuckman, I think, who did it,
mm-hmm.
and I can't remember the title of the video, but it was something along the lines of why The Lost World is like not. I can't remember. He was saying it was nearly as good as the first one, and people just don't recognise it enough. Yeah, it's not as bad as you remember. Yeah, and like I said, I do think it's the case. There's some really, really good moments in the second one, but it the sequels all get lumped in together because the first one is just so good.
That's it.
Has so many iconic scenes, moments, lines, and all this. I don't think any subsequent film was ever going to sort of live up to that.
No, and you asked the question, what do you remember? I don't remember much from the second and third film. Again, that's not because I remember them being bad films. I just don't remember them having. But
it does speak to that in pop culture that you don't remember, because most people don't. Most people don't remember much from the second or third one, and I only remembered realised in rewatching that the second one is a good time.
Yeah, that's a Spielberg directed film as well, which I think people seem to forget that he did come back for that second film. I am going to check them out again because I like the world that they've built. I like, again, like you say, because the first one was so good. Thankfully that we get to speak about it. But I want to go back and check out the second and third one.
The world. What about Jurassic World? How do you feel about that one?
I'm in the minority that I thought Jurassic World was fine because I know a lot of people say it had the Force Awakens syndrome where it lent very heavily on what came before in order to re-establish people's trust with it. Whereas Fallen Kingdom, most people thought that was one big pile of shit. But I actually didn't mind the first Jurassic World. I quite liked Fallen Kingdom. I quite liked that. I quite liked when they just turned it on and it got a bit darker, a bit more horror, a bit more like scenes from the original Jurassic Park. I don't like the escalation that they're doing, where every film has to have a bigger, badder dinosaur. I don't like that. I think it's stupid, and like some of the aspects of Fallen Kingdom,
is kind of it's supposed to be a bit of sort of commentary on what people do find entertaining, and that the kids show up in the first one in Jurassic World, don't they? And they're just kind of not bothered about dinosaurs whatsoever. So they have to keep trying to build something new and something better. And I think the thing that Jurassic World does really well is the real world parallels with just like it is just people just walking around this theme park just. They've seen all this stuff already, and they're just trying to get the next thing, the next time. What will be the next thing that will bring everybody back?
Yeah, they're buying the merch, they're checking out the apps, so they're using their phones and whatnot. It is
they
like
do that really well.
Yeah.
Really
I agree. Well. I agree that the real world building is great. I know. I thought Jurassic World was good. I had nothing wrong with it. I thought it was a good film. It had good moments in it. I thought the characters were a bit. I'm not hugely sold on the characters too much. Whereas Fallen Kingdom had a lot of iffy moments in it, especially like the cloning stuff, and some of the characters were a bit. But
the cloning stuff is no buys for me. That's no good.
I'm not a fan of that, but I quite enjoyed
because that's an escalation of just pointlessness. Because if the escalation in the next film is that we can clone humans, why are we still making Jurassic Park film? If you can clone a human, what are we doing? You don't need to bring back dinosaurs anymore. You've solved way more than that.
And the way they tie it into Hammond and that, and it's like I get you've got to tie it in thematically. I've got no issue with them tying the films together because I love it when you get a franchise. And obviously the MCU is your king, but when you get a franchise which ties together and they mention something and you're like, I remember watching that from this film, or that brings back memories of that. But
none of us are bigger than that. Where they just do a little throwback to something. That's something as well that to speak about like my thing on Jurassic World. I watched that film the first time I watched it, and I've never done this for something before, and I'll never do it again for this reason.
Mm-hmm.
In that can you remember it leaked early online?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It leaked
proper
a long time before it came out. Yeah, but mine was like a bad version. It was like a really low res version.
I think I remember you telling me this. Yeah.
Yeah, I watched it, kind of cast it to my screen to my TV from my phone, and so it looked even worse. I was so excited to watch it, and then I was kind of really let down by it. Obviously, with the original being one of my favorite films.
Yeah.
And I didn't watch it again for years, and I kind of held this thing against it, saying, no, I wasn't into it at all. Yeah, I watched it again about, I don't know, it must have been about 6 months back now. None of the problems that I sort of built up in my head were as bad as they were. As in, I seem to remember, like, vividly in my head, this is bad, but I seem to remember when the two kids go inside the old building and they find the Jeep.
Yeah.
I pictured that in my head, that there was like 4 of the Jeep, and that they had the sign draped over them that went "Dinosaurs Ruled the Earth," and that they'd found the can in the glove box. It was like, that's how I sort of remembered it in my head.
The nostalgia.
Yeah, watching it back, it's nothing like that. It's just kind of how I built it up to justify like how disappointed I was in my head, but not rewatched it at all. And I watched it back a bit back, and I watched it with Beth. I sort of turned to her. I was like, "This is great. This is Spielberg-esque. This is probably the closest one." And I don't think that about Fallen Kingdom.
No,
I don't hate that film, but it doesn't hit the blockbuster big feel that Jurassic World does. Whether you like what's in it or not, and because I do think some of the stuff is a bit ridiculous with the what's the name of the dinosaur again?
Oh,
told you I forgot.
You might as well just call it the Megasaurus for all I care.
Yeah, the super Hypersaurus, whatever it is. When it turns invisible and stuff, no good. No, just no good.
No. They got to keep it. You got to keep it, grounded as much as you can do.
Yeah,
it's the escalation
as much as you possibly can.
Yeah, and that's what's bothered me. And Fallen Kingdom's got a great. I think to me, it's got a lot of great moments in it. Whereas Jurassic World, I liked it, but it gave me what I wanted. I liked it because I got what I wanted from it. Whereas Fallen Kingdom, for me, they tried to push the boat a bit. Sometimes it worked, but obviously by destroying the island, for one, is a. That's
it's 2 films, isn't it? The first half of Fallen Kingdom is an attempt at the big blockbuster, the huge film sort of thing.
And then the second one is Bayona doing his thing, which is more like the gothic-y horror type stuff. Yeah,
the second half is a good, and I kind of like them both in isolation.
Together.
The scene at the end of the first half, kind of where they're going away and the doors are closing on the Brontosaurus with a fire behind it. It's really effective.
I felt really sad.
Yeah, same. It was a really good scene.
Manipulative, but I felt really sad. But I love these shots. It's in the trailer, but when the dino enters like the kid's room and you just see it going in and dark, it's like, that's a great scene. And there's a lot of it. But again, the problem with a lot of these new blockbusters is the action you get is quite underwhelming. And as much as I did enjoy Fallen Kingdom, a lot of the way they just offed the megala hyper Clonosaurus thing.
I'm going to find the name of that dinosaur. It's the Indominus Rex.
The Indominus Rex, yeah. When the way they just dispatch the Indominus Rex is just like, okay, just falls down and gets spiked. But they could have done so much. There's a lot they could have done better, but I did enjoy an awful lot of it, and I'm in a minority when I enjoyed it a lot more than most. But they've set up the third film, and Trevorrow himself was coming back. The one that Star Wars ditched. He's coming back. And, the dinosaurs...
I'm really excited for this third film.
Yeah, the dinos are loose, basically.
Yeah, the shortcomings of Fallen Kingdom are kind of justified with the world it sets up to move into, where what everybody's kind of been saying for a while now, I think, is they just want the dinosaurs loose everywhere. They want it to be Planet of the Apes with dinosaurs. Just have them everywhere.
But they've got the setup now. And Trevorrow's coming back, and Trevorrow does do... As you've seen with Jurassic World, I didn't mind the Book of Henry as much as most people, but you see with Jurassic World that Trevorrow can tell a good story. It's whether he can end his own story. Again, we've seen that in other franchises. Whether he can come back and end his story now is another thing.
It will be really interesting to see, obviously in hindsight of a separate movie franchise that he was going to end. It will be really interesting to see where we've got sort of a similar setup where, as a Star Wars trilogy, where we've got the first film is a sort of rehash of the old ones to try and get everybody back in the cinema.
Yep.
The second film, they're trying to sort of do their own thing, and some people liked it and some people didn't. And now we've got, obviously, the closing finale by Trevorrow. It's a very similar setup as the Star Wars setup.
I'm really interested to see what he does, and I hope that they do it. But I'm going to mention that short that Colin Trevorrow directed and dropped was incredible. And if that
it was so good. That is the best thing since the original film,
mate. Exactly. And if that's like a distillation, like a microcosm of what he's going to give us in the third film with the dinos loose, because those guys are just camping.
And why is that the best one? It's the characters.
Yep.
They sell you on those characters within 2 minutes. Just how the original sells you, just in the first part. And then when the dinosaurs come, you already care. They don't need to give you this big explosive action scene because it can be intimate and terrifying just because you care about the characters. That short, what is it? Oh, something at camp.
I can't remember what it's called, but I
can't remember what it's called.
I watched it on my mobile phone in the toilet at work. Yep, I did that. I went to the toilet, shall we say, to watch it. I just wanted to watch this short everyone was raving about.
Big Rock.
And that's it. And I was sitting on the toilet. I was like, do you know what? This is actually like bum-clenchingly tense. It's really good. And like you say,
fantastic.
The characters were great. And the way that they used the dinos were awesome. And the situation they put them in. Look, if we're going to get that in, I think it's called Jurassic World Dominion. Another like the John Wick Parabellum. They've thrown in these weird, stupid bloody titles. Dominion. There's an Exorcist film over there called Dominion as well.
That was guessed a while back before as well. I do listen to it. There's a Jurassic Park, the Jurassic Park podcast that I listen to.
Oh, sweet.
It's really good show. He does a lot of stuff about the toys and about the fandom and stuff. So yeah, shout out to Jurassic Park podcast. But I think a couple of lads who I speak to on Twitter do listen to it. But he was speaking about it, and I think he might have guessed the name before it even came out. I don't know how he'd done that. I think he made like a list of 5 things he thought it was gonna be, and I think Trevorrow responded to the tweet saying, "You've got this. One of them is right."
No way.
So everybody kind of went with one name, but it's not a great name, but
I'm not always a fan of like franchise colon like
something
fun word. Yeah, because
no, I'm not. And usually they're always the same words. It's always like rebellion, redemption, or
Dominion, like Parabellum.
Dominion,
sort of
Parabellum. Yeah, there's a lot of.
I can think of a few films.
Revelations.
Revelations is one. I can think of 2 films already called Dominion. You've got one with Joaquin Phoenix and Rooney Mara from like last year or the year before. They've got the Exorcist prequel, Dominion. Paul Schrader's one before it got canned. That's called Dominion. Yeah. And there's other ones as well. And it's just like a very kind of generic title.
Do use that. There must be a reason they use it. Keep using it. There must be something in like market research where they're saying this will work.
People love this word. I mean, I get why Dominion, because obviously this is their Dominion now. We're all in this same Dominion, blah, blah, blah. I get why they're using it, but hell, if they can give us a film which is even 3/4 as good as this first film, if Trevorrow can do that, I'm happy. But for now...
I think that if you've got to hedge your bets, I'll hedge mine.
Go on.
I think this one's going to be great. I think this one's going to be a real just fun time at the cinema. I don't think we're ever going to get something as close to the original. There's no point trying to. There's no point expecting any Jurassic Park film or Jurassic World film to ever beat the original. It's like trying to make a gangster movie every time better than Godfather 2.
Yeah.
There's no point reaching for that. But temper your expectations. I think this next one's going to be a real good time. I can't see how it's not going to be. Dinosaurs on the loose in the city, like... It's what everybody's wanted for ages. They kind of sort of did it a little bit in The Lost World for a minute. Yep. They do it a bit in Fallen Kingdom, but they got just loose in the mansion sort of thing. But it's seeing them loose in a contemporary setting is what people have always wanted.
Yeah, you're never going to do a horror film better than The Exorcist. You know, come at me, bro. But you're never going to do that. And like you said about The Godfather, you're never going to do a dino film better than Jurassic Park. I don't think you're ever going to. For a variety of reasons. Some we've mentioned, some we're going to mention. But
look how many dinosaur movies there are. And you could probably, out of all of them, you could say 99% of them are maybe garbage.
Even within the same franchise. They're even like garbage per se, but even the dinosaur films within the same Jurassic Park IP.
Within Jurassic Park,
still can't... There's
only one great one, that's for certain.
Yeah, and there's a couple of, really good ones, and then there's a couple which aren't quite so good. But I think the third one, I think it's got the potential. To me, it is how they use the environment. It sounds obvious, but because I think like Predator 2, you had Predator on the loose. It actually quite worked in that suburban situation. But it depends how they use them. Like the final shot of Fallen Kingdom, where you've got the lion roaring against the Rex or whichever.
That's
great shot of like nature versus
brilliant.
Like the genetics. It's are we going to see some shots of the dinosaurs roaming across like the Grand Canyon? Are we going to see them in these cities?
I think it could retroactively make Fallen Kingdom better if this third one does nail it, and they do give kind of maybe a good reason why they're doing the human cloning or something along those lines. I think
that is, I don't know what they're going to do with that, but
I don't know, and I'm glad I'm not in the shoes of the writer that's kind of going to take that baton.
But I believe, but Trevorrow produced Fallen Kingdom, and whereas some,
so he must have an idea where it's going.
Some producers,
that's not in there for no reason. That is sequel bait.
Yeah, some producers are very hands off. Some are very hands-on, and Trevorrow, because he set the world up with Jurassic World, and he was always coming back for the third one. He's all over the second one. J.A. Bayona, this is his film, but it was but Trevorrow would have been there.
I think we are yet to see Trevorrow's best work. He's Spielberg's golden boy, isn't he? He's the guy who Spielberg wanted to make Jurassic World, isn't he?
Grown a Spielberg-esque beard, isn't he? He's got the same sort of hair and glasses. But yeah, he's like he's who Spielberg had as his next in line, and he's whatever happened in Fallen Kingdom would have had some kind of blessing from Trevorrow. If Trevorrow doesn't want the cloned people in there, it doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen.
Yeah,
and I think the one thing that they've kind of got to nail in this next one as well is I feel like Owen and Claire, the characters?
Yes.
Owen and Claire have kind of got to have a different arc. I feel like in the first two films they have the same arc.
Yeah. Especially
they portray Claire as like the stuck-up person who kind of whatever about the dinosaur, and then at the start of Fallen Kingdom, she
completely changed.
Then she cares about the dinosaurs, but Owen doesn't anymore, and it's kind of just a repeat of the same arc from opposite sides.
Flipped, that character arc of Claire was strange
they've got to get those characters right in this next one.
Yeah, but
like you said, it is a strange choice for her to.
How they do it, because what they're going to do, they're going to romantically come together at the end, and great, is one of them going to get eaten, and they're going to have like the big sack, because we don't really see that in Jurassic Park. We don't really see kind of like the big sacrifice. You get people get eaten, but
no, a lot of random people get eaten. Like there's a really good scene where the
auntie
pterodactyl comes
down.
Right. And just snaps that random person out. Like
that's
really good.
That's the woman who's, I can't remember the name, but she's been left in charge of the kids. So she's I think she's like Claire's sister or something like that, isn't she? Or Claire's cousin.
Yeah.
Or friend. Yeah, she get there. Yeah. They have a field day of her.
And she's a really bad babysitter.
Yeah, and then she gets eaten, and then that thing comes out of the water and chomps everything.
Yeah.
For Jurassic Park, then we know this is like the gold standard. So is there any other scenes or moments or things that you want to mention about Jurassic Park? Because I know before we kind of talk about the ending of that film.
I think we covered a lot of the good ones.
I think mainly most of them. We mentioned the Brachiosaurus when Grant, Lex, and Timmy are falling asleep in the trees after their escape, and that's his bonding with the kids. That was lovely. Again, the score was great.
The Jeep going down the trees as well. That's a really good scene.
Yep, there's that one when we're back in the car. Or at least you're out of the tree.
Yeah.
But yeah, the third act, the finale for me, it's kind of when they've got to turn the Dennis Nedry's been eaten, they can't find him, everything's off, the phone line's off, the power's off, the electricity's off. They've got to go and turn the power back on and off again, and it's, hey, look, it works.
Yeah.
IT have built their careers on that, but so they've got to go and turn the power. So Sattler and Muldoon go to turn the power on, and that for me is where the film goes for its finale there.
That's where it kicks into fifth gear, isn't it?
Yeah, when the raptors are hunting them, and everything Muldoon said at the beginning is happening. He's like, I've got her. You've got to make a run for that building. He's watching her, and then the two come from the side, and you get that great line of clever girl. I think that's a brilliant line. Clever girl.
That's one of the biggest ones as well that we didn't mention. Yeah,
that is a
clever girl.
Brilliant line, and then you actually get to see the raptor come out and start eating the skull. We get but then at the same time with that, it's the classic kind of rope-a-dope. You've got that happening. At the same time, you've got Grant, Lex, and Timmy escaping, but they're climbing down the electric fence, which is off. They show that the lights are off, and then the alarm starts blaring that this is about to come on. And Grant tells Timmy to jump, even though Grant's 10 meters away. Because I watched, I was like, he's never going to make that jump. Then he gets electrocuted, and Timmy does no luck in this film. He gets almost eaten by a T-Rex. He gets stuck in the tree. He gets electrocuted. It's not his. He's had better days, hasn't he?
Those kids. If we're talking about moments that aren't so great from the film, if we moving on to that is maybe the one scene is where the kids are sort of there with the flashlight and they're just beaming it in the T-Rex's face. I mean, even as a kid, I was like, don't no, like, you must know how animals work. Never mind the prehistoric monsters. Don't shine light in their face if you're trying to not
just anything with eyes
attract their attention.
Is going to see this. Yeah. But the little Timmy is like, turn the damn thing off. Turn it off. Yeah. So he's got his.
But even that scene, like I said, as much as I'm criticising sort of the internal characters within the universe, that still adds it adds to a really good scene that goes down. So.
Yeah, it needs that. You need that for the peril, and I guess it's just frightened kids. I'll save some of my moments for in a minute. That may have been one of them. But yeah, I get, because you do get moments where you're like,
I think you might have more than me. I've really tried to think about some.
I only have only have a couple, but
compliment to those kids as well in comparison to the ones in Jurassic World. Who that might be my biggest problem in Jurassic World is those kids' performances.
Yeah, the kids in Jurassic Park, they start off as kind of kids. They're daft almost. For want of a better term, don't come at me, but then they evolve and they grow within the film, and their mannerisms change and how they act changes. And the little boy was Roger, what's his name in Bohemian Rhapsody, is the bass player for Queen. That was a fun little trivia. But the kids work, and I've mentioned before that sometimes kid actors can't. I mean, obviously Lexi's older, but sometimes kid actors aren't the best. But these two
often
were good.
They don't work. Yeah, I think I'm trying to think of. In like a big blockbuster film, they might be some of the best kids, performance-wise.
Off the top of my head, yeah, they're certainly aren't the worst. I mean, I'm trying to think of other ones.
I don't think that's a coincidence that most of Spielberg's kids that he uses in his films, he gets the kids to pull out a good performance a lot of the time.
It's just a sign of a good director and a casting director, because I think the casting directors always get overlooked because they're the ones who have to find these kids alongside Spielberg, but. I think the casting director got them spot on with these two.
Yeah.
But just about that ending, then I think it's a great ending. I think, like I said, when once Timmy gets electrocuted, then Ellie gets the systems going, but the Raptor comes out from behind us. Mr. Arnold or Sam Jackson's arm is there. The Raptor kills Muldoon, and then we get to the kitchen scene, the control room scene, when the Raptor's trying to burst through and they get the doors.
And they get through the. You get through the ceiling.
That's it. And they've got to go through the vents, and you've got the great shot of the Raptor with all the there's like numbers and letters on his face, which are coming through the vents. And then, of course, they're trying to escape, but on the bones of the T-Rex or whatever dinosaur it is. So there is a T-Rex, the T-Rex skeleton in the visitor centre. You got that, and then Rexy comes in to save the day. They get on the chopper. Hammond's looking at his
and the T-Rex does have like a little turn there. He becomes the hero for a scene.
He saves
unknowingly,
the day. Whether he means to or not, he just fancied feasting on something, and they were there. But I love it.
Anything.
And then you get the finale when they're on the helicopter, and the main theme's playing as they're looking out, and Alan Grant's looking at the birds. And of course, throughout the whole film, he's saying that dinosaurs and raptors especially have evolved from birds, and it's a beautiful moment. It just ends on the birds and the helicopter going across the ocean. But in that ending, though. I like I like the fact that you don't expect Rexy to come in to save the day. You've got the Raptors are about to chomp them. You kind of guess that the characters aren't going to be eaten, but you don't know what the hell's going to save them. And then to have Rexy just bowl in, works. It's been overused.
And they've kind of used that moment a lot, haven't they, now in subsequent films where sort of the T-Rex is the thing that comes in to change the tide in whatever peril the characters are in.
Maybe in Jurassic World 3, Dominion, maybe they'll actually kill the T-Rex, because nothing can kill the T-Rex.
I think they will. That's got to be the way that they up the stakes of whatever the next thing is that someone's been cooking up. I think it's got to, that T-Rex has got to go.
Yep, because
either that or it's the final shot in the entire trilogy.
I can see that. I can see the final shot being something to do with the T-Rex. Whether Trevorrow gets a new dinosaur which can take out the Rexy, because nothing's been able to take Rexy out. If they can do that, then you are kind of like, wow, okay. But then to me that then only works so if the dinosaurs win. If you get a new dinosaur that comes along that's genetically modified and he takes out Rexy and Rexy's gone, if that dinosaur then gets offed by the humans later on in like this slapstick or silly way, then kind of takes away the whole thing for me. So that only really works if the dinos win. But it would
be a good way to sort of get you on the side of the human characters to take out the dinosaur.
Oh, because God,
if they take out that T-Rex, although he's just like a mindless just predator, we do like him.
T-Rex, isn't it?
He's our T-Rex. He's been in every single sort of every single big moment's kind of been around him, hasn't he?
He always saves the day again. He's just like that daft, dopey one who just happens to be in the right place at the right time and just eats whatever he can see. Just happens to not be the humans. But at other points in the film, he is quite happily about to feast on every single one of them. But I think he's going to be vital in the film, or he or she, whatever it is they've made, is going to be vital.
It's a she.
It's a she. Yeah, so they've mentioned she. So yeah. So about the end of this, so actually the ending is a microcosm. So like the control room scene and the battle against the raptors. Did you think that was a fitting way to end Jurassic Park?
Oh, absolutely. That is the, like we've said before, that is the big payoff.
Mm-hmm.
In the whole film is sort of building to that, and it is the best. How long would you say that goes on for? From the start in the control room up until
is that from when they're going to get the power on, or from when they're trying to close the door?
Yeah.
I reckon it's probably about 20-25 minutes, because I was watching
20-25 minutes. Yeah,
I was watching the clock, and it took a long time for them to really get to it, which is a good thing. But because it's only 2 hours, I thought this was longer. They really cram a lot into 2 hours, and it's paced so well.
2 hours, yeah.
I think the pacing is excellent. But I remember looking at it. It got to about an hour and 40 minutes or something like that, and that's when the Raptors think, right, we've had enough messing around now. We'll come to play, and that's about 20-25 minutes towards the end, give or take. So yeah, so it's only a 20-minute ending, but it works.
Yeah, really does.
It works at the end.
Because it's surprising with Jurassic Park how this might sound one way or another, but it's surprising they haven't made more movies. I know there's a lot sort of thing, but there was a big gap with them not making any, wasn't there?
There was, yeah, because Lost World was 1997, so that was a 4-year gap. Jurassic Park 3, I don't remember. I imagine it was again another at least 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, it was 2000. Was it 2003 maybe?
It was early 2000s, I believe, and then Jurassic World was 2015, so that came out the same year as The Force Awakens. Took a lot of money, and then obviously The Force Awakens came out and eclipsed even that. But I mean, that was a huge success at the box office, and it shows that the popularity of the franchise. But like so many other franchises, the only problem I find is how many ways can you tell the Jurassic Park story without it just being dinosaurs on an island? Which Trevorrow has now set himself up. Well, Bayona and Trevorrow have given with Dominion the chance to actually do something different. That is always
the question, isn't it? Is this a universe, or is this just one idea sort of thing?
Jurassic World.
I guess so far you could, like you said, with the support for Jurassic World coming out and the amount of money it made, I think this has proved itself as a universe.
A surprising amount of money as well. I don't think anyone expected Jurassic World to make that much money. I mean,
and Fallen Kingdom, wasn't it? Fallen Kingdom made about 900.
That made a lot of money as well. I can't remember. Jurassic Park 3, by the way, is 2001. So between 93 and 2001, you got 3 films, which makes sense. It's 7 years. It's 3 years, 3 or 4 years per film. And then you've got a big old, and you've got a 14-year gap.
And there was the cancelled TV show in the 90s as well.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Yeah, there's a Jurassic Park Chaos Effect. I think that was the line of figures that they made. Mm-hmm. Those were the Kenner figures, and then they were going to sort of come out, and the TV shows was going to be like accompanying the toy line.
Right.
I think the premise for it, let me just look at the premise.
Yeah, man.
The premise was a few years after the events of the Lost World, some scientists went to one of the islands on Jurassic Park. While there, desperate to recreate the park's dinosaurs by completing the DNA sequence, they mixed the DNA of the dinosaurs with other species of dinosaurs and living animals today, resulting in the creation of aggressive and mostly dangerous mutants, listed below. So we've got, it's a lot of mixtures of velociraptors and, a lot of different stuff. Omega T-Rexes. It was going to be a toy line thing. It was like dragons that look like T-Rexes and whatnot. But
I don't remember that.
I can't imagine what that would have done if that would have been released. But
of course,
I don't think it would have done good.
Well, no, because it's just the advances in technology. I mean, how far could they push the boat with the effects, especially for TV? Because TV then isn't like it is now. Let's remember that.
No,
so the budgets
it
much
wouldn't
smaller.
have looked good back then. Trying to make a T-Rex that flies on screen in the 90s on TV, I think that might have been.
They struggled in Game of Thrones to make it look particularly great, but I'm not sure it would have been quite so good. I'm interested to see how well. I mean, Fallen Kingdom. I mean, Christ, the Fallen Kingdom did 1.309 billion. I mean,
oh wow, so it was more than I said.
That was a huge amount of money. Obviously, this one made 1.032. You adjust that for inflation, it made a bloody lot of money. The Lost World is follow-up. I mean, it made 618 million. Jurassic Park 3 only, and I mean that, only 365 million. But then Jurassic World comes bowling in 1.6 billion. Fallen Kingdom 1.3 billion. So what is interesting about that is that from Fallen Kingdom and from Jurassic World and Fallen Kingdom, you've only got less than a 300 million drop off. So to me, it means the same people who went to see the Jurassic World were desperate to come back to see what happened next.
Desperate to come back.
Whereas again, you see other franchises, you don't. There's been a decline, or you just don't have that interest. But something in these films is keeping people there. Whereas the original three, JP,
love seeing dinosaurs on the big screen.
Exactly, and if it's done well, it's done well. But Jurassic Park, 1, 2, and 3 had a massive decline. It was like by 50% each time, and maybe that's because of the film going taste or the quality of the films. But it's interesting to see how.
I think that it'll be a big question as to how much this one makes, because there was quite a lot of people that didn't like Fallen Kingdom, wasn't?
Mm-hmm. But it still made so much money.
Yeah, so I think a lot of the general audiences are definitely going to be back. Like you said, with the drop off that small, I can't see a big one next for some random reason. But I think they'll nail the marketing as well. I think they're going to come out with a big trailer with a big opening sort of scene with the showing that the dinosaurs are now in the city, and I think that's going to be a trailer that'll hit really well. What do you remember sort of from around the time Jurassic World came out? Were you like really excited for it?
Cautiously optimistic, because again, I'm not going to sit here and say I knew those numbers off by heart, but I knew that Jurassic Park was, the zenith, and the subsequent sequels are fine. And I always have a problem with sometimes revitalising franchises, because you never know if they're going to do a straight up rehash, if they're going to recontinue the story like Blade Runner 2049, like a full on sequel, or what it's going to be. And with Jurassic World, I wasn't sure if this is going to be much the same but bigger. If it's going to, they go to an island,
like you said with Blade Runner 2049, I think there is a balance that you have to strike between making a direct sequel and sort of soft rebooting within the universe and not ignoring the old films, because some people just want to see something. Some people just want to go into the cinema and see something.
And I wanted to see reverence paid to Jurassic Park, but not kind of leaning on it so heavily that this is just taking the mickey now. So, and
like we mentioned earlier, I don't think Jurassic World does go too far. I don't think it does. Going reverence for Jurassic Park.
I don't think it does. You have your moments, and you have moments which get you, and it's like, oh, that's great. And Fallen Kingdom has them as well, obviously, especially the Brontosaur, Brachiosaur, which were at that moment. But they've all like name dropping Hammond or having Dr. Malcolm come in for like a very short cameo, and the other ones coming as well. So that works. But yeah, I was more concerned about was it just going to be the same old stuff but just bigger, with bigger dinosaurs and bigger CGI, and lose that kind of heart that the first film had. But I was surprised that Jurassic World was actually a decent film, and I think a lot of people were. I don't think anyone thought it was going to make $1.6 billion.
Oh no! I
don't think anyone thought that.
That's what I was asking. Do you know anybody sort of else who was like really excited for it? I can't remember really the buzz around it at the time.
Not really. I mean, from what I remember, was a lot of people were excited because they were bringing the dinos back to the big screen. But I think people were seeing the cast and that, and like some of the plot points that are coming out, and a lot of it did seem again very similar. A new park's opened. The dinosaurs are going to break loose. This time they're a bit bigger. And I think it's Chris Pratt. I think he's a good actor, and Bryce Dallas Howard as well. I think there was the way that
Chris Pratt is probably the modern blockbuster actor, isn't he?
He's absolutely. He's certainly one of them.
The face of that.
Yeah, he works in that role, like the kind of odd. It's almost like an odd Han Solo-esque character. Owen Grady. So I was just worried about how they were going to capture the spirit, or how much reverence are they going to pay. Was it different? Was it a remake, a redo? But I remember people were excited for it, but it was kind of, people were also expecting it to be a bit poo. And when it came out, as actually, this is quite good. Plus, it's just made.
And I think it did disappoint a lot of people. I know. I think I was watching a lot of Screen Junkie stuff at the time, and Dan Murrell from there is. I think Jaws is his favourite film, but I don't think Jurassic Park's too far behind. Yeah. And I remember him just scathing Jurassic World. I remember him really not liking it because of. He sort of thought it was the film that a lot of people were expecting, where he felt it was like a rehash and an attempt just at nostalgia and whatnot. But yeah, I sort of maybe was influenced when I first watched it, and I had my bad experience with it the first time. I maybe sort of was influenced by a lot of the people who were talking about it, because I watched all the videos after and kind of went, yeah, that's how I felt. And
do you think it was because of how you saw it?
Tastes do change as well. I think it's a bit how I saw it. Maybe a bit just, like I said, tastes do just change. It had been, when did that? It came out 2015, didn't it?
Yeah, all got the summertime.
Yeah, it was obviously 5 years ago since I'd seen it, and I couldn't believe the movie that was in my head that I'd remembered compared to the one that I actually saw.
Yeah.
And I watched it. I watched it with Beth, who does really like it, and she'd said a bunch of times, "No, it's not as bad, not as bad." And I watched it, and yeah, thoroughly enjoyed it. So a lot of it is around your viewing situation. Like,
absolutely.
I watched it on a bigger screen, a better screen, with somebody who really enjoyed it and kind of just got in the energy of it, and it did give me a lot of the feelings that the original did.
Well, I think
all those years ago. So I think
the message that Ant's really trying to say is, listen to your missus. That's what he's trying to say, because she's always right.
Every time.
Women know the truth all the time, yeah. Yeah, I'm going to go back and watch Lost World and Jurassic Park 3 because of this conversation, because I want to, because I like the world. I do enjoy the films. I don't think they're awful. But again, whereas this film is so good.
I hope you do the same thing I do, and I hope you do surprise yourself with Lost World specifically. The 3 is going to be what you remember 3 being, which is not that memorable, and it's not really. Yeah.
Because I remember William H. Macy being a bit over the top and annoying me a bit in the lead, right, as a lead bloke. But
and I think it does show, obviously. I think Ian Malcolm's character carries the Lost World a lot better than Alan Grant's does in Jurassic Park 3. And I know that is a big debate over, because when people compare the films, they do often compare, well, it's the Ian Malcolm one or it's the Alan Grant one. And I sort of kind of side with Ian Malcolm as a more interesting character to watch in isolation.
Yeah. No, I will definitely check them out again. I've seen them, but I don't really remember much about them. But I will, try and get a copy or rent them or something. And the beauty of technology, I don't have to leave. As much as I miss Blockbuster Video, I don't have to get up anymore. And they'll be on Prime or something like that, or maybe they won't be on Netflix, but they'll be on Prime or something. I'll check that out. I will definitely watch them.
I'm trying to recapture the feeling of watching Jurassic Park. I remember as a kid. You just remind me with Blockbuster then. I remember as a kid, I must have rented Godzilla 98 maybe 10 times in a row, just because I wanted more dinosaur. And I know he's not a dinosaur, but they basically made him into the T-Rex.
Yeah.
They took direct inspiration. There's a lot of shots that are exactly the same as the ones in Jurassic Park. Because they kind of, Spielberg had kind of eaten the cake of making sort of a film like that. And Godzilla had to, even Godzilla being this massive property, kind of had to emulate it to get as big an audience as it did.
The modern audience,
yeah.
Yeah, with Matthew Broderick as well. Not quite Jeff Goldblum or Sam Neill and that, but
definitely not.
No, yeah. Again, shout out to Blockbuster. R.I.P. I miss you every day. Oh. I do miss Blockbuster.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I have good memories of seeing as a kid. And I used to love dinosaurs. I had so many books about dinosaurs, which were probably too old for me to be reading, like little words for a little kid, little text, sorry, for a little kid. But I loved it. It spoke to me as a kid. I wanted to be, like I said at the beginning, I wanted to be a dino hunter. This was right up my alley, and it was everything I wanted from a film like this. And it was magical. And looking back now as a 30-something-year-old fella, watching it now, and I still get the awe. And it is because of the scenes, and it is because of the performance, and of course it's because of the music. But
and the way it's, I said this earlier in the podcast, but the way it's shot as well, specifically. I can't remember who did the video on this. There's a video on YouTube. I think the video's titled "Why Jurassic Park Looks Better Than Its Sequels," and it really does go into the kind of camera, the kind of shots that they use, and specifically what the effect was by using these techniques in the original, compared to the new film that kind of shoots them in more of like it shoots them in a more conventional way, which doesn't make them look as big. It doesn't make them look as like awe-inspiring when it's trying to, and it doesn't shoot them from the scale of like the characters either.
No.
So it takes away that kind of feeling that you're there on this journey, like we said the first one.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's just the filmmaking of this is the way Spielberg and his team crafted this film. It took years to do, and it shows because it is one of the classic films. But with every,
it took 7 years to get started on it.
And it took 2 years of post-production to get it done as well. So once they'd filmed it,
and they kind of used all the clay animatics to sort of set out the scenes before they did them as well. They kind of built all the dinosaurs out of clay.
That's right. It's Phil Tippett who was listed as the dinosaur supervisor, which is a great name on the credits. And I love that Reddit post. Like, you had one job, Phil.
And was it Sam Winston as well? Had come off of Aliens.
Yeah.
And he'd just sort of done the Alien Queen. And he was like, yeah, sure, I can do you a T-Rex. And then I think there was a story from that as well. Oh, this would have been a great story to tell, but I sort of forgot bits of it. I hope you know it. Where it was raining onto the animatronic of the T-Rex. And it was making it like come to life and like kind of making it jiggle and scaring everybody.
It was the producer of this film, Kathleen Kennedy, who's a world-class producer, guys. Sorry to piss on your fire, but she is. Kathleen Kennedy said it. They're having like their dinner or something, and suddenly this Rex thing just come to life and they couldn't work out why. And it's because of the rain was messing around with the circuitry and that. But eventually, it just became like, oh, Rex is awake again. How cool must that have been? But,
oh, imagine being on the set. The closest thing you can get to that sort of thing, I go to Universal Studios a lot, and one of the first places I make a beeline to is Jurassic Park. Walking through the gates there they've really nailed that experience. You walk through the gates, the music just blares out to you. You get the goosebumps. You walk around the corner, there's a giant T-Rex. You can get on the ride and sort of do the tour of... the ride kind of goes how the movie goes. You get on. It's a nice little boat tour. You're going through, and it's this is a brachiosaurus. This is and it's sort of explaining, and then an alarm goes off, and your boat goes off course straight into raptor containment, where all the cages are now empty, and sort of You go around the rest of the boat ride, and there's like a T-Rex comes out to try and get you. You fall down this giant hole and splash out at the end. They've recreated that experience of the film really well.
I would love that.
And it's interesting in the California Universal Studios, they've changed all the branding to Jurassic World, so that is entirely Jurassic World now. There's nothing to do with Jurassic Park in it, but in the Orlando one, they've left it as Jurassic Park, which I kind of like. Yeah, I do really kind of like that.
That was interesting. Also, it caters to everyone. I know not everyone's got infinite funds to be able to go to both of them in like the same week to test them out, but they're both there. So if you are a fan of the new ones,
but I remember a lot of people being angry online who obviously don't like the sequels, saying we don't want to go to this sort of thing. So it is nice that the option is there if people don't like Jurassic World.
Angry fans on the internet. Who would have thought? That's basically the best moment. That's everything we love about the film. And I think this will be a very short part now, but other than that, the parts you mentioned, was anything else which you kind of watched in Jurassic Park and you think, well, that wasn't quite as good?
When you told me that this was going to be a section of the show, I kind of rewatched it with a cynical eye to try and find something that I didn't like, and I couldn't.
There's nothing wrong with that either.
There's not really much about it. Like I said, I tried to sort of justify the one with the kids, but.
Yep. No, there's nothing wrong with not. The only things I really found was the fact that they came out and said Lex is a computer hacker. Now, thank God she was a computer hacker, and at some point they needed to hack the system. That was the only thing, because they mentioned that they said, "Oh, I'm not a something. I'm a hacker. And then when they get into the control room, she's like, "Oh, it's a Unix system. I can use it. I can do that." I was like, "Of course you can," because the story dictated it, but. Again, that's their little thing, but it's like you need to that has to happen because so they had to have something like that, and the fact that she was a hacker doesn't ruin the film for me, but it is one of those moments. Every film kind of has it where it's like that's an incredibly convenient thing that this young girl just happens to be a hacker who can hack into this Unix system that this park has, this $1 billion park has. But other than that, I mean, I didn't. The tree escape was good. I enjoyed that, but that wasn't my favourite set piece. But that's it. That literally is. It. Then there's one scene when they're in the control room and Lex is sorting out the system, the Raptor's trying to burst in and Grant and Sattler are holding the door, and there's a scene in the background you can see Timmy jumping up and down like holding his head, and I was like, that's really bad. I really don't like that. Like really like naff. But it's out of focus, and then the buzz like fair. It's only like 1 or 2 seconds where they just look scared basically, and I was like, okay, that's it. But again, that's just me being. Flippant, but yeah, there really isn't anything in this film which I really didn't like or dislike. So after all that, that's everything that we thought about the film, whether you agree with us or not. If anyone out there doesn't like this film, we would love to find out the reasons why. Not so we can tell you that you're wrong, but this is a film that's held up in high esteem by most people, I think. I'd love to hear what people think. What about you, Anne? What do you think about people who don't enjoy this film?
Yeah, definitely. We've really struggled to try and find bad moments in it, and the ones we did find were sort of nitpicky, weren't they, at best? And yeah,
Frivolous at
it's
best.
yeah, definitely. So I would like to hear some people's bad points for sure.
Yep, see if they can beat ours. Well, that is. I think that wraps up our Jurassic Park conversation. And what a conversation it was as well. We mentioned that Ant is a premier YouTube streamer. So if the people out there listening want to hear more of you, and why shouldn't they? Where can they watch you, hear you, and find you?
So I'm streaming on YouTube at AntShotFirst every Wednesday and Sunday. I'm at AntShotFirst on Instagram and Twitter and everywhere else you can sort of find me. Yeah.
Yep, go check out Ant's work. You won't be disappointed. You can find me at whatiwatchtonight.co.uk. Rotten Tomatoes as well. We're putting reviews up there very slowly, but they are still going up there. What I Watch Tonight, Instagram, Twitter. We're on Facebook. We don't use it that much, but by all means, do feel free to follow us on there. If you enjoy what you've just heard and you know someone likes Jurassic Park, let them know that there's a show of a couple of lads out there just chatting Jurassic Park in an open and honest way. And if you have a spare few minutes, please do consider leaving us a good review on your podcast provider of choice, because it helps the show out massively. Plus, I love hearing from you guys anyway. However, Ant, thank you very much for joining in. Is there any last things you want to say before we jump off?
I think we'd be remiss to forget to pay honours to Irfan Khan, rest in peace.
Yeah.
Great performance in Jurassic World. But yeah, I think we've kind of covered it. We've covered the Jurassic films.
Yeah, we've covered the Jurassic period. And yeah, echo that Irfan Khan was a great addition to the Jurassic franchise and also to film in general. So good shout, R.I.P. Irfan Khan. But yeah, Ant, thank you for that. Thank you for coming on. Everyone listening, thank you so much for listening. But until next time, as ever, see ya.